of this and get some legal analyst on to help break it all down for us on what is going to be happening not only on Friday, but we're more looking at opening statements on Monday and just how big this could be. So I want to bring in our next guest here, criminal defense attorney Keith Johnson, legal analyst as well. Thanks so much for being here, Keith. We appreciate it. And I mean, this is about of a high profile case as you can get.
Absolutely. This is a case that combines pop culture, it combines law, it combines politics. So it's going to be a fascinating 2 months that we're going to see unfold in federal court in New York.
And let's talk a little bit about what the moment is going to be like, and tell us a little bit about how opening statements could go. My first question to you is, how will the prosecution really take what we all know of Diddy and what we've known about him in the past 35 years, entertainer, a rap mogul, entrepreneur, but how do they get away from that thinking for the jury and get them more into what they want to have Sean John look like, and that is a defendant, a criminal. That is how they want to picture them. So how do they paint Sean Combs like that?
Well, so the ironic part is that both sides are going to be trying to tell their own story about the events of the trial. The prosecution is going to try to walk a fine line. They don't want jurors to idolize him as the music mogul that he's been over the past 30 plus years. But they also are going to try to say that because of his wealth and his influence, that was the coercion that took away the consent for these adults to participate in these sexual acts. So they're going to try to use his celebrity status against him in a prejudicial way. And so essentially it's going to be up to the defense to humanize Mr. Combs in a way that his celebrity status does not hinder him from having a defense like each and every person in this country is entitled to. So if I'm the defense attorney, I will ask the rhetorical question: if his name was Sean Johnson and not Sean Combs, would we be here today? Would we be here when you have adults, no one is alleged to be underage, who are involved in swinger parties and these sexual acts that the defense is going to say were totally consensual and are only being brought to light several years later for monetary gain. So it's going to be up to both sides to try to frame this in a way that benefits their respective arguments.
And all it takes, I mean, they just have to poke some holes, and really they just have to try to get one juror on their side when it's all said and done.
Yeah, so in order for there to be a verdict, it has to be unanimous, but you can have a hung jury on one person who is not totally convinced either way. And then the jury would be instructed to continue to talk about the case and deliberate. But ultimately, if they are deadlocked, one juror can hang up a jury. So if you are the defense, you want to make sure that you have people on the jury who are maybe a little skeptical of law enforcement, who may really hold the government to the standard of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you're the prosecution, you want jurors who are going to care about this case, not in a way where it's salacious, but look at Mr. Combs as a sexual deviant. And that may be a difficult proposition once you get into the facts of the case, the credibility of the witnesses. For example, if these were former lovers and former girlfriends of Mr. Combs, and he is making you engage in these acts, well, why are you staying around? Why didn't you go to the police? Why are you filing a lawsuit instead of going straight to the police station first? Why are you continuing to be in his shadow, which may have lifted up your career or your social circle when you're engaging in these coercive acts. And so that's going to be where the fight is waged, in my opinion.
It's such a good insight there. And Keith, a lot of people also wanting to know just how the defense team is going to navigate once the video of the hallway video from the hotel with Cassie and really the abuse that was caught there on camera. How is the defense team really going to navigate that and talk to the jury about that video in question?
Well, you have to get the air out of the room with that video, meaning you have to own up to it. The fact that this was not a moment that he's proud of, it's a moment that he has issued a public apology about. But you have to put that in the context of he's not here for a domestic violence charge against her at the hotel. He's here for being a sexual trafficker. And you have to also make the argument that she never reported this to the police. And she continued to engage in a relationship with this man for quite some time after this. And so those are actually things that are very important to putting context to the event. You have to own the event. You have to tell the jury that we're not here because you agree with him morally and how he has conducted himself at each and every stage of his life. We're here to determine whether he was committing these sexual violent acts that are that you're here to judge his actions by. And so you have to make sure that the jury is not looking at this as what would I have done in this situation, but they're looking at it, what is an illegal act, and do these people have a motive to lie for whatever personal vendetta that they may have.
And is it also, would it be beneficial for Diddy and his team for if the jurors, would it be more beneficial if they all saw the video ahead of time, like, you know, in the media reports that they described that they've seen it in? Would that be more beneficial for them to see it in their own way instead of it being like a shock if they haven't seen it?
Yeah. So the reality is most people probably have seen it, but as a defense attorney and a former prosecutor, I would assume that they have some knowledge of the video. And I do believe that the more times that you see the video, the less that of the shock value that you would have from seeing it. Once again, you have to prepare the jury for the video that they're about to see. And I think that the defense attorneys, who are just excellent attorneys, by the way, are going to set it up in their opening statement. I'm sure they've already set it up in their voir dire questions, which are the questions that they are asking to the jury in order to get a fair jury panel assembled. And so as many times as you can minimize and let the jury know the proper context that they should put the video in is really the most important strategy that the defense will have. And so if I'm a defense attorney, I'm going to say that's the video that started this whole thing. And it was based in a money pursuit that was settled by my client without any wrongdoing. Why did she not go to the police? Why did she run to a lawyer and try to get millions of dollars? Why did she continue to have a relationship with this man if he was so abusive? And why hasn't he been charged with assaulting her in any way from that specific incident? That's the context that I believe the defense is going to have to present, because it's a bad video. There's no way around that. But if it's a bad video, you don't want to insult the intelligence of the jury by just glossing over it.
Yeah, that's so true. And also, I want to get your take on what are, as a defense attorney, what are some of the things that you are looking at from for the jury when you're looking at them, when you're talking about a specific case? What are you looking for facial reactions? Are you looking for eye contact? What are some of the big things that you really gear into to see, hey, maybe we have somebody on our side here?
You're definitely looking at eye contact. You're looking at, are they taking notes when you're talking versus when the prosecutor is talking? You're looking at how they are looking at your client. And so I always tell clients, you have to have a poker face. You have to remember that you're not just being judged by the man or the woman on the bench, you're being judged by the jury. They're looking at how you dress, your posture, your facial expressions, especially when certain items of evidence are coming in. What is Mr. Combs going to do when they show the video? Is he going to have any reaction to it? Is he going to shake his head? Those are all things that jurors who are human are looking at. And in a case of this magnitude, there's going to be the star quality, the celebrity quality that's going on. And so you want to make sure that you never lose track of the fact that you are being watched each and every way, especially as the attorney, the way you interact with your client when you're passing notes or when you're whispering something to them. Those things are very important. And so a good defense attorney is going to try to touch his client on the back. He's going to shake his hand in front of the jury to humanize your client, to make sure that the jury understands the stakes. And the stakes in this case are life-changing. Mr. Combs could receive a life sentence for sex trafficking. He's already 55 years old. So this is a very important trial, and it's one where the defense has to humanize Mr. Combs if they have any shot of winning this case.
Yeah, those are such great points there. And I wonder too, lastly here, Keith, with the longer trial that it's expected to go, some 8 weeks, they're saying maybe even longer than that, depending on just how long some of the witnesses are on the stand. But I wonder, you know, they usually say with longer trials, they worry that the jury might not be into it as much. But I feel like with this one, of course, you already have the celebrity impact here of this case, where you have Sean Combs as the defendant. But also, this case is so sexually charged. I mean, it seems like it is not going to be boring by any means.
Yeah, it is definitely not going to be a boring case because it's very salacious, as I stated. I mean, we're going to be talking about sex acts, recording, baby oil, just, you know, things that people don't discuss in social settings, especially in a courtroom. And so you have jurors who probably have never gone through this process at all. So you have to prepare the jury for what they're about to hear. You have to tell them that at the end of this trial, if I'm Mr. Combs' attorney, you may not like my client. You may think he's a sexual deviant. You may think that he needs God. You may think that he got a little bit too big for his britches. But you're not here to make a moral judgment on him. You're here to determine whether he committed these heinous offenses in violation of federal statute. And you have to really, really hone in on that, because they are the jury's going to hear that he was a bully. They're going to hear that he was abusive. And so you have to make sure that you put context into what they are going to observe. But I think that the jury will be locked in. One last point is that they are selecting 6 alternates. That's a lot of extra jurors for a trial. So you're going to have them mixed in with the real jury in the event that someone has an emergency and you have to fill in a slot. And so they are admonished not to talk about the case with each other or with their family. But unless you are totally sequestered, it's just impossible. When people find out that you're on this jury, I'm sorry, the spouse is going to ask about it. The kids are going to say, Mom, you got on the jury. What was it like? What does he look like? Right? So how do you buffer that? And as an attorney, how do you figure out how to use that to your advantage? Because, you know, we have so much coming in with our phones and our social media and our email. How do you just stay locked in for 2 months on a very high profile case? That's going to be the fascinating part.
Yeah, you really, really will be. And doesn't it seem like because this is so high profile and because it just seems the temptation just to pick up your phone seems to be the hardest part probably for people to do, wouldn't it be easier to sequester them? I know it'd be very difficult on the jury themselves because they'd be away from their families, but how does that thinking go in, and when is that even decided if it is sequestered?
Yeah, so a motion would be made prior to the trial and prior to the start of the evidence in the case. And so it doesn't look like it's going to go that that way. I believe that the jury should be sequestered because everybody has an opinion on these kind of things, especially when you have someone who has the celebrity status of Mr. Combs. And so, it appears that it will not be a sequestered jury, but that's really dangerous. That's really dangerous, especially when you have media that's going to be talking about it day in and day out, which is what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it'll definitely be talked about, and boy, will there be stuff to talk about. It seems like each day will be new information starting on Monday there. But Keith Johnson, thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. It was a great time to speak with you, get your insight. And I know this won't be the last time that we speak. I know we'll be speaking during this trial as well.
All right. Thank you for having me. Sounds good.
No problem. You take care. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir.
All right, everyone. So thanks again to Keith Johnson, their criminal defense attorney. Great to have his insight. And right now, what we want to do is just continue to play out some more updates here in real time on Live Now from Fox. We are going to end the YouTube stream in just moments. But again, we appreciate you. And we will be back on Friday with more coverage of this on Live Now from Fox as they get the 45 jurors down to 18. Thank you again.